Good morning and welcome to this week's reflection. The text is taken from Psalm 11 verse 5, which reads in the New International Version, "The Lord examines the righteous, but the wicked, those who love violence, he hates with a passion." But there is an alternative way of translating the verse which I think makes good sense and with which we're going to run. It reads, "The Lord examines the righteous and the wicked, and with all his being, he hates the lover of violence." It is a somber and frightening thing to be threatened with violence, and a traumatic experience to be on the receiving end of violence. We're living in days when violence on the global scene is constantly erupting. The wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, together with countless conflicts across Africa and elsewhere. They all bear witness to the fact that there are many people of violence in positions of leadership. And at a personal level, violence has become a common way of settling disputes or taking revenge for a failed relationship or a perceived wrong. In Psalm 11, the writer is under the threat of violence from his political enemies, which, if it were to succeed, would destroy the very foundations of his society. And so he asks the question, when the foundations are being destroyed, what can the righteous do? Time and time again, we've seen violence lead to the total destruction of societies, leading to failed states where there is no rule of law, only the rule of the gun. Where does the psalm writer find his hope amid this kind of threat? Instead of fleeing as his advisors suggest, he looks at the big picture, and he finds hope in the fact that the Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord is on his throne in the heavens. In other words, whatever these violent people are intending, they have left God out of account, and God can never be left out of the picture. Sooner or later, and the psalmist envisages it as sooner, everyone must be examined by the Lord, the righteous and the wicked. Everyone must be tested by God's standards. And with all God's very being, he hates the lover of violence. Violence is the antithesis of God's shalom, his peace and salvation. God's faithfulness requires that lovers of violence must face the consequences of their actions. Violence comes in many forms. It's not always the fist or the bullet. It can be verbal intimidation or controlling behaviour. And instead of looking at how others express violence, we must look to ourselves to see if it finds any expression in our own lives, and then change how we live. And like the psalmist, if it comes our way, we are encouraged to remember that God is on his heavenly throne, and that all who love violence will face his judgment. Amen.